We begin today the Gemara on Daf Ayin Zayin Amud Beis, 7 lines up from the bottom of the Amud, where it says Kelayim. The Gemara before brought a Braise where it mentions that the payment of Dalad Vehei, when you steal and slaughter an animal, applies also to the animal which is Kelayim. So here the Gemara is going to address, we know that the chiyuv of paying Dalad Vehei doesn't apply to any animal. It's only a shayr or a seh, as it says in the pasuk, an ox or a sheep. But over here, this Braise says Kelayim as well. Kelayim is an animal that's a hybrid. It was born from a father which is a goat and a sheep. So what's the source for this? Kelayim, says the Gemara. So from where do we see Kelayim? That it's also the payment of Dalad Vehei is included in this by this case as well. The Gemara asks, Seksiv, doesn't the pasuk say regarding the payment of Dalad Vehei that it has to be only for a seh, for sheep? So that should be limited to this. Because Rava said in a different place, the pasuk Seksiv that the Gemara is actually quoting here is not the pasuk seh that it says over here by the payment of Dalad Vehei, but it's an extra pasuk of seh that it says in a different place. Rashi here doesn't bring it, but Taisus over here brings in the name of Rashi in Chulin, where Rashi says, it says by the Parsha, I think it's in Parsha 8, where it speaks about the kosher animals and the non-kosher animals. So there it says a double lashon, shor seksavim v'seh izim. So it repeats the word seh there twice. So in that repetition of the word said there, in that pasuk, Rava says on that, Zeh bona av, this is a father, in other words, this is a source for other places in Torah, that kol makim shenem aseh, whenever the Torah uses the term seh, like in this case, einoi ela lohoitzias aklayim. The word says being written there to exclude an animal which is a hybrid, which is Kelayim. So over here as well, when the Torah says, or it says, ki yignev ish shoyer oiseh, the word seh should exclude Kelayim. So how does the Braise say that you pay Dalad Vehei for Kelayim? Answers the Gemara, what Rava said doesn't apply to our case. Why not? Because Shani Acha, our case is different. Da Makra, because when the pasuk says the payment of Dalad Vehei, it says Oy. It says the extra word of Oy. Shai ki yignev ish shoyer oiseh, or it says shoyer oiseh. And that word Oy is extra. Very often when the Torah wants to write, or it doesn't say a whole word of Oy, it just says a Vav, and Vav could also mean or. So why does it have to say the whole word of Oy here? Rabbi says Kelayim. That's coming to say that not only for a seh are you chayav Dalad Vehei, but even if just the mother is a sheep, that's enough, and it's Kelayim, you still chayav to pay Dalad Vehei. Anytime it says Oy, it's coming to include even Kelayim. But Vatanya and a Braise, we learned the exact opposite. And there, this is a pasuk that it says, B'nigeya to an animal that's born, that only on the 8th day could it be brought as a carbon. So on that pasuk it says, Shoir Oy Kesef. So what does the Braise say about this extra word of Oy over here? Prat leKelayim. From this pasuk we learn out that you bring as a carbon an ox or a sheep, but the word Oy is coming to exclude Kelayim. And then the Braise continues, in that pasuk it says afterwards, it says, Shoir Oy Kesef Oy Eiz. When it says Oy Eiz, it says again an extra time the word Oy, or a goat. Prat lenidme. This is coming to exclude an animal that's actually not a hybrid. It's born from a kosher father and mother, but somehow it has the resemblance of some other animal, not like the kosher animal that it is, like its father and mother. So this animal also can't be brought as a carbon. So over here in this Braise, the point is we see that the extra word Oy is an exclusion. We're saying that the extra word Oy is the opposite. It's an inclusion. It's coming to say that Kelayim is included in the payment of Dalad Vehei. Omar Rava, so Rava answers, it depends on the context of the pasuk. Over here we go by the context of the pasuk, and here we go by the context of the pasuk. And the point that the Gemara is going to explain is that the Oy has to come and be marbe, or you have to darshan from it something different than you would think according to the simple context of the pasuk. So when you know what the context of the pasuk is, then you understand that the Oy is coming to say different than what the simple context of the pasuk would have been. So therefore we say as follows. Here by Gneva, the pasuk says, Shoir oiseh, an ox or a sheep. Because it mentions here the shoyer or the seh, there is no a Kelayim that could be born from a hybrid that comes from a shoyer and a seh together. Rashi says a shoyer and a seh together cannot give birth. By the shayr, the pregnancy takes 9 months. By a seh, the pregnancy takes 5 months. They're different, and there's no crossbreeding between them that they can give birth together. So therefore, when the Torah says shayr and seh, so it's understood that it's excluding kalayim. They can't give birth together. So now, if that's simple pshat of the pasuk, so oi, when the Torah writes the extra word of oi to include something that you don't see in the pasuk, lerabis kalayim. So that oi is coming to say, even though in the simple pshat of the pasuk it's excluding kalayim, but oi comes to add and say that no, kalayim is included. Gabe kachim, but on the other hand, by the pasuk of kachim that we just quoted before, so it says over there kesev and it says eiz. So the chsiv kesev ve'eiz, because it mentions the lamb or the sheep and the goat, so they can be together, and there could be a kalayim that's born from these two together. So in the context of the pasuk itself, you already see that there's an inyan of kalayim that would be included to be able to be brought as a carbon. So that when it writes oi, to say that you have to darshan, not like the simple pshat of the pasuk, lamayit, over there the oi is an exclusion, lamayit. Okay, so therefore it all goes in the context of the pasuk. But the Gemara right away asks that it's hard to understand this. But the pasuk that you just said regarding kachim, that it says kesev and eiz, and by them there's shayach kalayim. But how does that pasuk begin? By that pasuk it starts off shoir, oy kesev, oy eiz. So even over there by the kachim, it also says shoir, oy kesev, she'ein ato yachol oitzi kalayim ebeneim. Which means that you can't have kalayim from a shoir and a kesev, just like over here. By the Dal Ve'eh, it says Shoir Oiseh, and therefore the simple context is that there's no Klayim. Over there by the Kachim, it also says Shoir Kesev, where there's no Klayim. See, if so, V'narbi, so let's say over there that the Oi is coming to include that Klayim could be brought as a carbon, is included, just like we said over here by the payment of Dal Ve'eh. So the Gemara answers, no, we darshan it from the second part of the pasuk, not the beginning of the pasuk. Because the second half of the pasuk, it starts off with shoyrei kesev, but then after kesev it says kesev oy eiz. So if you darshan from the second part of the pasuk where it says kesev oy eiz, and that is something which there could be kalayim, so over there the oy is lamayit, to exclude that kalayim cannot be brought. So since I darshan from the second half of the pasuk, reisha nami lamayit. So to the Reisha, the beginning of the pasuk, I also say that it's coming to be Memayit. It's coming to be Memayit Klayim, and it's coming to be Memayit, as the Gemara said before, a nidmeh, an animal that has a resemblance of some other animal. The Gemara asks in this, why do I dash in this way? Adarabeh. On the contrary, if based on the beginning of the pasuk where it says shoyrei kesev, so you would have to be marbe to include kilayim. So seifa nami l'rabbis. I should say that the seifa is also coming to be marbe. Why are you basing it all on the second half of the pasuk? So the Gemara says no, because then if you're going to be marbe, then it's not going to work out. Why not? Hi mai. How are you going to explain this if you're going to want to be marbe from the reisha, the beginning of the pasuk, and the seif of the end of the pasuk? If you're going to say that we learn from this pasuk based on the way we understand it from the end of the pasuk, in the end of the pasuk it seems to include kalayim, and therefore we're going to be excluding kalayim from the word oi. So hu deitzrich trei miyuti. That would explain why it's necessary, as the Braisa says, to have twice oi to make two exclusions. What's the two exclusions? The afagav, the imut kalayim, even after we're saying that kalayim is excluded from being brought as a carbon, it's trich lemute nidme, you still need another oi to also exclude the nidme. Because to exclude a nidme is a bigger chiddush. Again, because the nidme is an animal that's actually born from a regular, to a father and mother which are totally kosher and the same min. It's just that somehow has a resemblance of a different animal. So it's a bigger chiddush, so you have to exclude that as well. But if you're going to go by the beginning of the pasuk, and you're going to say that in the beginning of the pasuk it says shoir oy kesev, which sounds like we're excluding kalayim, and therefore you're going to say that the oy is coming to be marbe. So trei ribuya lama. Why do I need two ribuyim? Once I'm being marbe Kilayim from the beginning of the pasuk, so hashta kilayim mirabile. If I learn that kilayim could be brought as a carbon, nidme miboye, do I need a second oi to tell me that even an animal that is not kilayim, it's born from the same father and mother, but nevertheless has a resemblance like something else, is it needed to say that that's included? Wouldn't be necessary b'chlal to say this. So therefore the fact that we see that there's two ois, that leads me to the conclusion to say that the drashis of these two ois is an exclusion. And that explains why I need both of these. The Rashba over here explains, in the simple pshat of the Gemara, you could ask that if it would be only one oi to be marbe, then why wouldn't I say that that oi is coming to be marbe just the nidme, which is more logical to be marbe and not the kalayim. But the Rashba says no, the Gemara understands differently, because if you're being marbe from the words shoir oi kesev, the mashmos of the ribui would be dafka regarding kalayim. Since a shoir and a kesev are two animals there cannot be any kalayim to them. There's no reason to be marbe here and nidme. The point of this pasuk is to say they cannot be kalayim, but I'm adding the word in oi to say that even kalayim could be brought. So that's the mashmos of the pasuk, to be marbe kalayim. And once you marbe kalayim, there's no reason to be marbe nidme. So therefore, the only way to explain why there's two ois to be memayit, so if you're being memayit, then you could say you're being memayit klayim, and not only that, you're even being memayit the animal which is a nidme, which is a bigger chiddush to exclude it from being brought as a carbon more than even klayim. Okay, so now the Gemara goes back to the statement that we brought before from Rava. This whole thing started off with the question that Rava said that there's an extra word se that the Torah says shoy seksavim se izim. As I mentioned, this is in the pasuk by the where it talks about the kosher and non-kosher animals in Parshas Re'eh, and that extra word says coming to be marbe, that wherever the Torah writes se, it means just a sheep, not anything else. Regarding what did Rava say this? What's this binyan av that I learned out to other places? So this that Rava said zebona av, that the extra word se is a source for kol mokim shenema said, that anytime the Torah writes a se, ein elo lohoitzi is a klayim, the word se comes to exclude klayim. Lamai hilchase, for what case did Rava say this as a rule? Where else is it necessary to be marbe this? And the Gemara is going to go through a few options. If he was coming to say this regarding kotchim, so as we just learned we're learning here clearly from the pasuk, shoir oi kesev, the extra word of oi tells me prat leklayim, to exclude klayim. So you don't need this binyan av that Rava said based on the word se to exclude klayim. If you're going to say that binyan av that Rava said is necessary to teach me that the halacha of meiser behema only applies to a se and not to other animals, tachas yalef mekotchim. But I already have Gzeira Shaveh that you learn from the word tachas that it says regarding meiser behema, and the word tachas that it says by kotchim, and therefore I compare the two. If by kotchim I exclude klayim, so regarding meiser behema, klayim is excluded as well. If you're going to say that it's coming to say that the halacha of b'chayr by behema, then maybe it's coming to teach me regarding the b'chayr, the firstborn, that is brought as a carbon, that's excluding klayim. That's the binyan av that Rava said. I don't need that Rashi either, because havara yalef memaisa. There's another Gzeira Shaveh, as Rashi here brings the sources of these Gzeira Shavehs. The havara, it says vahavarta by the b'chayr, and it says kol yavar by maisa behema. So I compare the two to say yalef memaisa. You learn out the b'chayr from maisa behema to exclude a kalayim. Another point the Gemara says, inami, when it comes to b'chayr, you don't need any drasha to exclude kilayim, because there's a pasuk which excludes the nidme. And if you exclude nidme, for sure you have to exclude kilayim. As the Gemara explains here, inami, or I could tell you, nidme, omrit loy, even this animal that is not kilayim, has a regular father and mother from one min, but it still resembles something else. And that's excluded from the mitzvah of b'chayr. As we learn from the pasuk, ach b'chayr shayr. So we learn from b'chayr shayr, ach yehei hu shayr u b'chayr shayr. That you only chayiv in the mitzvah of b'chayr behema by the b'chayr by the behema if the father, the mother is a shayr, and the child that's born has the same resemblance. So kilayim miboye, if the pasuk says that just the nidme has a different resemblance, there's no halacha of b'chayr. For sure, there should be no halacha of b'chayr for kilayim. So again, the point is there's no need for this drasha that Rav said to learn from Seh to exclude Kilayim. So what was Rav's rule referring to? None of these cases. Ella says the Gemara, Ki itme de Rav, when Rav said his rule that it's only a Seh, le'inyan petach hamar. What he said is used and is learned out regarding Petach Hamayr, the first born by a donkey, where over there you have to exchange it with a lamb. So it's coming to say that it's to exclude Kalayim. Keditnan, as we learned over there, when you redeem it with a seh, so it has to be a seh dafke and not Kalayim. As it says in the Mishnah, Ein Paidin, you can't redeem this Petach Hamayr, Loi be'egel, not with a calf, Loi b'chaya, not with any other wild beast, V'loi b'shchuta, not with this lamb once it's already shechted, V'loi b'treifa, not with the lamb which is a treifa, V'loi b'kalayim, and this is the point, not a kalayim either. If it's born from two different animals, even if it's they're both behemoths, not chaya, but it's from still kalayim, a hybrid. V'loi b'koi, and you can't redeem with a koi. And here Rashi teaches that a koi is also a sort of kalayim, but it's when the father is a behemoth and the mother is a chaya, or the reverse. So here, it's the case of Petach Hamayr, where we don't have any other source to exclude Kilayim other than what Rava said. That we learn out from this Binyan Av that the Torah says Seh, and over here as well by the Pidyon Petach Hamayr, the Torah says that you have to redeem it with a Seh, and it's Dafka Seh and not Kilayim. Now the Gemara says, but there's an opinion that argues on this Mishnah. Well, Rabbi Lazar, the Mata B'Klayim, Rabbi Lazar actually says that you could do the Pidyon Petach Hamayr with Klayim, the Tanan. The Mishnah there in Bechayre says, Rabbi Lazar, Mata B'Klayim. Mipnei Shehu Seh, Rabbi Lazar says you're still allowed to do it with Klayim. It is called a Seh. It's not like the Koi or a Chaya, which it's a hybrid or it's from a different min altogether. It's two Mine Behemoths, and therefore it's still called a Seh. So Lamai Hilchaseh. So this binyan av that Rava said that you learn out from Seh to exclude Kilayim, regarding which case does this apply? It doesn't apply to Petach Hamayr either. Amalach Rabbi Lazar will tell you, Ki itme de Rava, this binyan av that Rava said, what is it coming to apply to? L'tamei shenoilad min ha'tahir, to a tamei animal that was born from a tahir animal, v'iburei min ha'tamei. But this tired animal became pregnant from a tamei animal. So Rashi says, for example, a para, a cow that gives birth to a horse. How does a cow give birth to a horse? Because the father is a horse. It became pregnant from a horse. So Rashi gives other examples, but that's one example. Okay, so over here, it's this case where the pasuk is coming to say that this behemoth you can't eat. So the halacha that we're learning out of here is benegeh to kashrus. When you get to the behemoths that are tmeim and tahirim, even though the mother that this animal is born from, it's being born from a mother that's a para, that's kosher, or maybe born from a sheep, but because the mother had a relation with a sus, and therefore what's born is a sus, tamei, it's going to be tamei. And where do we know this from? We're learning it from this double lashon that the Torah says there, shor seh ksavim and seh izim, that it has to be a pure seh, not that the pregnancy was from a non-kosher animal. Says the Gemara, Odeloi ke Rabbi Shua. This drasha that we're saying now does not follow the opinion of Rabbi Shua. The Rabbi Shua, because if we would go like Rabbi Shua, so Rabbi Shua says the same halacha, but he learns it out already from another part of this pasuk. He doesn't learn it out from this extra word said that Rava pointed out. Well, how does he learn it out? He says, Miseh ksavim, v'seh izim nafkele. It says ksavim, a plural term, and izim also a plural term. Why is it saying this plural term? It's coming to say Ashe aviv keves v'imay kivsa. That the only time when you can eat the animal, a kosher animal, it's not enough if it's born from a kosher mother, but it has to be born from a kosher father and mother. That's why it uses the plural term of kvasim. So you don't need the extra word of seh that Rava said. Now the Gemara interjects over here and asks, is it even possible, this whole thing that we just darshan over here, that if the mother has a relation with a father that's, like I mentioned, a para and a sus, a cow and a horse, is that even possible that they can give birth together? So the Gemara says, Rashi here brings that the Gemara in Bechayres says that it's impossible, that Elo'ilam emis abris, that the Tomeya and a Tahira, they cannot give birth. So the Gemara is asking, what do we even need this drasha for if it's not physically possible? So the Gemara says, you're right, usually it's not possible, but I'll tell you in a case where it is possible. The kaim along, because we hold what the case that this could be possible is the aber mekolot kerab Shimon. If a kosher animal became pregnant from a non-kosher animal, which is a kolot. What does the Gemara mean by this? What it means by this is, Well, let's say an animal is born from a father and a mother, which were both totally kosher. But somehow this animal was born without the proper sign of being a kosher animal. So the two signs of the kosher animal is it's malageta, it chews its cud, but also the fact that it has split hooves. What happens if you have an animal that's born from a kosher father or mother, but it doesn't have split hooves? So according to Rab Shimon, this animal has the halacha like a camel. A camel doesn't have split hooves, and therefore it's not kosher. So even though it was born from a kosher father and mother, but nevertheless, it's a tomei animal. He learns it out from the extra words in the Torah. When the Torah says gomel twice, it says twice about the fact that a camel is not kosher. The repetition teaches me that this animal that's born from a kosher father and mother, but it has the nature like a gomel, that it doesn't have split hooves, it's a tomei animal. So this is the tomei animal that a kosher animal could have a relation with and give birth. Usually a tomei and a tahor animal will not give birth. But this tomei animal, which is really born from a tahor animal, it has the nature like a tahor animal, but it doesn't have the split hooves, this is the tomei animal that it could give birth from. And if it gives birth, that's what I need, the drasha of seh, or the drasha of kvasim, the plural term of kvasim, to teach me that if you're born from this relation of this kolot here, then the animal is not going to be, it's not going to be kosher. That's the case that it's going on. Okay, now the Gemara brings a completely different ibaya. Rava asked the following shaila: Harei alai oila. If a person takes upon himself to bring a carbon oila, and v'hifrish shayr. So in order to fulfill his neder, his vow that he said he's going to bring a carbon oila, what did he designate? The best, a big fat ox for this carbon. Someone comes and steals this ox. Now the question is, what does he have to give him back to return the geneva, which it's really already kosher. It doesn't belong to this person. Now this is going according to the opinion of Rab Shimon. Right? Rab Shimon says, Rashi brings the opinion of Rab Shimon that because even after you makdash it, you chayev b'achriyusa, you still have the responsibility to replace it. So when you steal it from this ganev, it's a davar goyrem l'momin, it's still of value to him, so you have to return it to him. But now the question is, what does this ganev have to return? Now, so the Gemara here is going to explain, based on here, we'll see the Gemara brings here a Mishnah, when a person just takes upon himself, Harei alai oila, so he has different options of what he can designate to bring as a carbon oila. He didn't specify what kind of oila that vow will be. He can bring a shayr, he can bring a much cheaper animal, a keves, a sheep, or he could even bring just a bird maybe, also as a carbon oila. So now, when this person stole this oila, do I say, mi pata ganav nafshei bekeves? Could this ganav pater himself by just returning a sheep? L'Rabbanan, according to the opinion of the Rabbanan, that when you make a neder to bring an oila, you don't have to bring a shayr. You can bring a keves. So if you stole the shayr from the owner, give him back a keves and say to the owner, look, you'll be able to fulfill your neder now with this sheep. Or even furthermore, ba'oilas ha'oif. According to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, when you make this neder to bring an oila, it's enough if you just bring a bird. That Nana, as we learned in the Mishnah, a person takes upon himself this neder to bring an oila, yavi keves. You don't have to bring the best, the biggest, the fattest behema. You don't have to bring the shar. You can bring just a keves. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, yavi toira ben yaina. You can bring one of the types of birds that are brought as karbanis. So the question is over here by this ganev, what does he have to return? Mi amrinon shame oila kibel ilavei. That the owner of this carbon, so he took upon himself to bring oila. So as long as you return him something which has the shem oila, that could be a sheep, or it could even be a bird. It doesn't necessarily have to be a shar. Oidilme, or no, matzi amale. The owner could say, "Ana mitzvah min amufcha bin elemevet." I want to do the best mitzvah. When I took upon myself to bring the oila, I wanted to be dafka shar, the best, the fattest, the biggest. So you have to give me back my mitzvah min amufcha. It's not enough to give me back just a basic another thing. So Basa the Boya, after Rav asked this Shaila, Hoda Pashta, he himself answered it. Ganav, Potar Atzmai, Bekeves L'Rabbanan, Ganav that is, Potar Atzmai, Bekeves L'Rabbanan. So he can pater himself just by returning a sheep, according to the Rabbanan's opinion, that's enough to fulfill his obligation. And by L'Sa'oif, L'Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. And according to Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, it's enough if you just return a bird to fulfill his obligation. Rav Acha Bereid Ravike Masnal Behedya. Rav Acha Bereid Ravike didn't learn this as an ibaya and as an answer, but he learned that this is what Rava said. Rava said, Harei alai oila. Person accepts upon himself to bring oila. Then v'hifrishayr, he designates an ox for this. Someone comes and steals this ox. Pataratzmai bekeves l'Rabbanan. He could pater himself by returning just a sheep according to the Rabbanan, or by l'Sa'if l'Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. So there's a famous discussion from this Gemara that the Paiskim speak about, that some Paiskim want to say, based on this Gemara, that the same thing would be also if you steal someone's beautiful, beautiful esrog. And now, what kind of esrog do you have to return him? So based on what it says here in the Maskana of the Gemara, that you don't have to give back the same shayr, you can give back just a keves or a oif. The same thing you could say regarding an esrog. You steal a beautiful esrog, but what do you have to return him? Just a basic esrog to fulfill the mitzvah. That's what the Gemara says. You don't have to give back the carbon for the mitzvah min ha-mufchar. But other Paiskim argue with this and say it's not the same thing. Because the reason why the Gemara here is coming to this maskana is because this animal that you stole is really already kachim. It's not yours, b'chlal. Yeah, there is still an aspect of ownership, according to Reb Shimon, Dava Geirim Lamamin, that it's something that's of value to you, but it's really all just kachim already. So therefore, over here, the maskana is that you return whatever carbon could be brought as an ayla. But by an esrog, the esrog still belongs to you. True, the esrog is designated for the mitzvah, it's going to be used for the purpose of the mitzvah, but it's still completely yours. You steal an esrog that's a beautiful esrog min ha-mufchar, you have to return a beautiful esrog that you stole.
To return whatever he stole. Like is a kosher haseged that he got something $100. If something that children, whatever the amount.
So that's the point that I'm explaining. That over here, you're not really stealing this thing that he owns it. He doesn't own this behemoth anymore. It belongs to Kachim. The whole ownership is that he has the responsibility to make sure that the carbon will be brought. If it gets lost, so as long as I give him something back that he can fulfill that responsibility to bring a carbon, it's good. He can pater himself.
If it's not kachim, you should have to give back to the Beis HaMikdash or to come to
no, but for that there's no chiyuv b'chlal. It's the chiyuv of Heshav as Agneva is when you get to the ganev. It's not when you get to the kachim. No, there's no chiyuv on that. The chiyuv of Heshav as Agneva is when you get to the nignav, that is the person that he stole from.
There's two biles okay.
No, but I don't think over there when you get to the geneva of Hektish, it's a different thing. Maybe there's an inyan of Me'il or something else. It's not this inyan over here. That's not what you're paying for over here. Sagt the Heilige Mishnah, Machroi, going back to the halachas of a person that stole the animal and he sold it, you have to pay Dalet Vehei. So what happens if Machroi chutz me'echad mimei shabai? He sold the animal, but not completely. A certain percent of it, 100th of it, he says, I'm keeping for myself. That I'm not selling. Or this animal that he stole, it was an animal that he originally was a partner in it. And now he stole it from his partner. So in both of these cases, you don't pay Dalet Vehei. Hashaychet v'nisnabla b'yada. You shechted the animal, but the shechita wasn't right, wasn't done good. It became an avela. Hanaycher, or you just tear open the animal. There's no shechita at all. Or v'hama'akir, he pulls out the pipes, which are usually they have to be shechted. He doesn't shecht it at all. In all these cases, mashlam alim tashlum, be careful. So for the stealing of the animal, you still pay kefil. But you do not pay Bava Kama in these cases. In the last cases of the Mishnah over here, the Chiddush is, we had before, according to Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon says that you only pay Bava Kama if it's fit for eating. The Rabbanan say that the Shechita does not have to be fit for eating, and therefore even a Treifa, you have to pay Dalet Vehei. But here the Mishnah is saying, even according to the Rabbanan, that it does not have to be fit for eating, but it has to be a Shechita. If there's no Shechita at all, so then you're not chayiv either, even according to the Rabbanan. When the Mishnah says that if you sold it, but you left out a certain percent, 100th of it, exactly which part, if he leaves it out, do I say that it's not sold fully enough to be chayiv Dalet Vehei? So here the Gemara is going to bring a few opinions about this. Rav says, if he left out in the sale a portion of the animal that is permitted through shchita, it's a part of the animal that you can only use or eat because of the shchita. If that's what you left out in the sale, then you're not chayav to pay Dalet Vehei. But if you leave out a certain portion of the animal that has nothing to do with shchita, you can use it even without the shchita. The Gemara is soon going to give the example, the gizei seha, the fleece, or the horns, that has nothing to do with shchita. If that portion is left out, then you still pay Dalet Vehei. The Levi argues and says, Chutz migizei sell. No, if you sell the animal and you leave out anything, even if you leave out the fleece, whatever you leave out, doesn't matter, even though it's not related to the shechita at all, still you're not going to pay Dalet Vehei. Chen Tayim b'masnita says this in a brayso as well. Chutz migizei sell. If a person sells the animal besides just the fleece, you don't pay Dalet Vehei. The Gemara asks from what it says in the Braisa about this exact point, and here the Braisa brings three opinions. Machra, person sold the animal that he stole, chutz mi yada, excluding a hand of the animal, chutz mi ragla, or excluding a foot, the forelegs, the hind legs, chutz mi karna, besides the horns, chutz mi giziseh, besides the fleece. So in all of these cases, einai mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha. Whatever it is that you left out, whether it's something, as you see here, whether it's something which is nitter b'shchita, it becomes permitted to eat through shchita, like the foot or the hand, or something that's not nitter b'shchita, like the horns or the fleece. Either way, you don't pay dal v'hei. Rabbi says there's a different rule to this. Davar hama'akiv b'shchita, if it's a portion of the body of the animal that is integral for the shchita to be a kosher shchita, then you don't pay dal v'hei. It's if it's a portion of the animal that is not integral for the shchita to be a kosher shchita, then you do pay dal v'hei. There are different opinions how you explain this. Rashi over here says that there are certain parts of the animal that if you take it out of the animal before shchita, then the animal can't live. The Rashi here gives different examples of the body of the animal, certain vital organs of the animal, or the windpipe and so on, different things that they are vital to the shchita itself. And if you don't have them, so then there is no shchita. You can't shech the animal. But then there's certain parts of the animal, Rashi says that lower down parts of the animal, like a foot, a hand, and so on, over there, if you remove it from the animal, you can still shecht it and eat it. So that's the rules. This is another way of understanding this. Okay, third opinion here is Rav Shimon ben Elazar. Rav Shimon ben Elazar says, "Chutz mikarna enem mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha." That if you are selling the animal besides the horns, so then the horns is something that if you exclude it, you don't pay the dal v'hei. Chutz mikizei, but if it's besides the fleece, mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha, you do pay 4 or 5 times. Okay, so we have over here 3 opinions in this brayso. Says the Gemara, Bishloim Levi. Levi's opinion is Tana Kama. That's the Tana Kama of the brayso. Tana Kama said no matter what you exclude, you always don't pay dal v'hei. So that's Levi's opinion. Elo Rav, but according to Rav, that said a fourth rule. Rav said a different rule. Keman, it's not like any of what it says over here in this brayso. Rav says the rule was that as long as it's something that becomes permitted through shchita, and you exclude that, then there is no dal v'hei. None of the opinions in the brayso said this. So Amri, they answered, Rav dama ki hai Tana. Rav says, like the Tana here in this brayso. The Tanya, in another brayso, we learned the fourth opinion, which is Rav's opinion. Rav Shimon ben Elazar, that Rav Shimon ben Elazar said, Machra chutz mi yada v'chutz mi ragla, you sell the animal besides a hand or a foot, enem mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha, because the hand and the foot become mutter through shchita. Chutz mikarna, chutz migizei, but if you're selling the animal besides the horn or the fleece, mishalem tashlumi arba v'chamisha, because they are mutter to use unrelated to the shchita. Exactly like Rav said. See now the Gemara explains the source of all these opinions. But my kamiflagi, what is the argument based on? It's based on how you interpret the psukim here, or the pasuk. Tana Kama Savar, Tana Kama holds when he says no matter what you exclude, so you're not going to be chayiv to pay dal v'hei for the sale. V'tavchai kulei be'inan. When it says in the Torah v'tavchai, it means that you shechted it. You shechted it. The shechita is the whole animal. Goes in the whole animal. So too umachroi. When it says or you sold it, it means kulei be'inan. You sold the entire animal. If you exclude even one part, whatever it may be, there is no payment. That's the Tana Kama, which is also Levi's opinion. Rabbi Sava, Rabbi's opinion is v'tavchai means midi dehava betvicha. V'tavchai means only something which is needed, which is integral for the shechita to be kosher. That excludes something that's not integral to the shechita, so that's not part of the shechita here. You can shecht it without the foot or hand being there. So therefore, umachroi dum yedetvicha. Then when the Torah says umachroi, so when you sell, it's the same thing. Even if you sold and it's missing a leg, it's missing a part that's not integral to the shechita. Over here as well, I say that you pay dal v'hei. Rav Shimon ben Elazar, he said that there's a distinction between the horn or the fleece. Karne, the loyle migzakaime, the horns which are not made to cut off havashir. That's something, if you leave it out from the animal, so then it's considered to be something that you left for yourself, you didn't fully sell it, and therefore you don't pay dal v'hei. Gizay sell, however, the fleece, he says, is different. The lemegas kaimi. Because fleece, you always shear the wool of the animal. That's what it's made for. It's made to cut off. So lo have a shear. The fact that you're leaving that out for yourself, you're selling the animal, and you're saying, well, the wool I'm going to shear for myself, that is not considered to be left out. And therefore for this, you do pay Bava Kama. So Rab Shimon is saying, Misvara, he's not comparing the Tavcha and Mavchra, he's just, Misvara is saying that the fleece is different. And the Idach, Tana de Rab Shimon ben Elazar, the other Braise that we quoted, the name of Rab Shimon ben Elazar, a different opinion, like what Rav said, that it depends if it's something which becomes mutter through the Shechita or not. So Savar, he holds, Yoda v'raglov de tzrichit viche havashir. The hands and the feet, which they need Shechita to be matter to eat them. So that's called a shear. That's a tafchay. Tafchay goes on that. And v'lei mishal tashlum Bava Kama. If you do not include it in so it's not, you don't pay Dal v'chamisha, you don't pay the payment of Dal v'hei. Karnel v'gizay sel the loy tzrichit viche. But the horns or the fleece, which don't need the shechita at all, so it's not included in what the Torah says. V'tavchay, so lo yav a shear regarding the sale as well. Even if you leave it out, it's not considered to be something that you left out that will pater you to pay. Just like the shechita is not needed for it by the mechira as well. Even if it's left out, you still pay. Now the Gemara finishes off this thing. Kashi the Rab Shimon ben Elazar, the Rab Shimon ben Elazar. We have here a contradiction in Rab Shimon ben Elazar's opinion. Two different brises that quote in his name, two different things. It's the Gemara, Trei, Tanoi, V'aliv, Rab Shimon ben Elazar. Yeah, it's two brises, two different opinions, what Rab Shimon ben Elazar held about this. Tana Rabbanan, and a brisa we learned, Hagoyne v'kitas, a person steals the animal, which was an amputee. It's missing a foot, or on the hind legs, or the forelegs. Or v'sechigeres, an animal that was limping. It's a suma, it's blind. Or v'chen Hagoyne behemas shutfin, or a person that stole a behemoth from shutfin. Chayiv. In these cases, then he goes and slaughters it or sells it, he's chayiv to pay Dal v'hei. However, v'shutvin shegonvu, if it's partners that stole this animal, then peturim. Then they're going to be potter to pay Dal v'hei. Fragt the Gemara, but Vatanya, in a Braisa we learn, shutvin shegonvu chayavim, that partners that steal together an animal, partners in crime, they do pay Dal v'hei. Rav Nachman answers, loy kasha. It's not a question. Kam b'shutif shegonav mechaveiroi. The case of the Braisa that says that you're going to be potter to pay Dal v'hei is, it doesn't mean that they are partners in crime. What it means is that you have partners that owned an animal together, and now one partner steals the animal from his partner. Over there, because you are partial owner in this animal, so you can't be chayav to pay Dal v'hei because part of it was already owned by you from before. It's not the tafchay umachrei kulay. It's not all. Part of it was already yours. There you potter. But kam b'shutiv shegonav ma'alma. But over here, we're talking about shutfin, that together, partners in crime, are stealing an animal from somewhere else. In such a case, you're going to be potter. But the Gemara asks on this answer is not true. There's a braisa that clearly says, Yochel, I would think, shutiv shegonav mechaveiroi, a partner that stole from his friend. So he steals, they're partners in his animal, and he steals part of this animal from his friend. Or v'shutvin shegonvu, or partners in crime that steal together an animal from a third individual. Hiyu chayav, and I would think that they would be chayav to pay Dal v'hei. Talmud loima v'tavchay kulay be'inon v'tavchay, that you slaughtered the whole thing yourself v'leke. And in both of these cases, you can't apply the pasuk of v'tavchay. So here you see clearly that partners in crime that steal an animal and then sell it are going to be potter. So how did Rav Nachman say that in such a case everybody agrees Yechayev? And Rav Nachman, so therefore Rav Nachman answers, Loi Kashya, the contradiction about partners in crime that steal and then slaughter it is not a question whether Yechayev or potter. It depends. Kan b'shutev shetovach l'das chaveira. Here, these partners stole the animal together, and then one of these partners goes and slaughters the animal, and his friend, the Ganav, his shutev, his partner in crime, is appointing him as a shliach. He tells him, here, I want you to go and slaughter the animal for me. So in such a case, they're both going to be chayiv together. And Rashi here brings what we learned before already, that regarding the payment of Dal v'hei, even though usually there's no halacha of shlichus when you do an aveda, but not by Dal v'hei. By Dal v'hei, if someone else does the shechita for you, there is a inyan of shlichus, and therefore, when you shecht for your partner in crime, they're both going to be chayiv to pay Dal v'hei. Here, it's when partners stole together the animal, but then one of them went and shechted it on his own. So over here, you're not going to be chayiv because because he didn't tell you to do this. So over here, you're not going to be chayiv to pay for his part because he never told you to shech this animal, and you're also not going to be chayiv to pay for your part because you only are half a ganav. So you don't pay for half of what you stole. Because right now, right at the beginning, when you're shechting, it's not just your geneva. It's your geneva together with someone else, and he never asked you to do this part. So you're not chayiv to pay not for his part, not for your part. Okay, Rashi says it's different than the other case that we had before. There is a concept of paying half a dal v'hei. Rashi says it doesn't apply over here. Over here, you're right now b'shas you're shechting it. It's half you're the ganav and half he's the ganav. So there is no v'tovche kula here. You don't pay in this case dal v'hei. Okay, let's learn one more shtickle over here. Zok the Gemara, boy Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the Shaila, Machra chutz mishloishim yoyim. You sold the animal, but you tell the buyer that I just need this animal still for 30 days to work for me, and after 30 days I'll give it to you. So there's a sale with this remainder of time. Chutz memelachta, or you tell the person you're selling it to you, I'm selling it to you that if you want to use it, shecht it, eat it, fine. But until you shecht it, the malacha, the work of this animal is for me. Or chutz mi ubra, you sell the animal besides if it's pregnant, and you say that the fetus, that is still mine. Mahu. What's the halacha here when you're leaving out these things in the sale? Is the sale still something that you have to pay the halvei for? It. So it says the Gemara regarding the last ibaya, according to the opinion that says that a fetus is just like another limb. It's like the leg of the mother. So this last ibaya is not a question. The hashir ba, because it's mamish like part of the body of the mother, and you left that out. So you left out an integral portion of this animal. So there's no doubt. The question is, according to the opinion that says that a fetus is not like part of the body of the mother, it's a separate entity that's inside the mother's body. So what's the halacha here? Do we say, even though it's a separate entity, but it's still inside the mother, and it's attached, it's there, have a shear. So therefore, if you leave this out, it's considered to be an exclusion that patters you of paying the dal v'hei. Or maybe no. Since it's going to be born and it will become an independent being, it's destined to happen this way. So therefore, lo yavashir. This is not considered to be something that you left out from the animal itself that you sold. There's another version of the explanation of what this ibaya is. Do I say, Kivin, the lav, yerech imay, since according to this opinion, a fetus is not like another limb of the mother, lo yavashir. So therefore this is not an exclusion in the sale of the animal itself. Or perhaps, Kivin the tzarech, l'ishtaruya bahada, b'shchite, since when you shecht an animal, so if a live fetus is found inside, the only way it's mutter to eat it is if there was a shchita for the mother. If the mother just dies, the animal that's found inside, it's not going to be mutter to eat that either. So you see that the animal inside is connected to the mother regarding the halacha of shchita. Command the shear begufa. Therefore, based on that halacha, we could say also that if you leave out the fetus, it is considered to be leaving out something of the body of this animal dummy. Teiku. This remains unresolved. Bayit of Papa asked another shaila, Gonva, if a person steals the animal, so before we spoke about stealing an animal and then selling it and leaving out a certain portion in the sale. But what happens if the person didn't leave out, but what happened is kata, he cut off a foot, and then umachra, and then he sells it. So now that he cut off a foot, he's not leaving anything out. The animal as is, he's selling it fully. So now, what's the halacha here? Mi amrinan, my dagan of halizavin. The animal as it was in its condition when he sold it, he didn't sell it fully. And when he stole it, that is, he didn't sell it fully because he cut off a foot in between. Or maybe I could say, no, ma dezavin halashir. Now, in the condition that it's in right now, once he amputated a leg, now he sold the animal fully, and you should be chayav to pay a dal vei for the full sale. Teiku, this also remains unresolved.